everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a coffee chats kind of video. It's kind of like a Q&A, although full disclaimer, I'm not actually drinking coffee, I'm drinking hot chocolate. But I thought it would just be fun to do this kind of video. I've received several of the same types of questions from you guys over the last few months regarding pregnancy and birth related things, so I thought it would be fun to sit down and answer some of those questions for you. So if you want to grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea, or like me, have some hot chocolate, go ahead and do that and I will answer some of your questions. So probably the biggest question, or maybe not the biggest question, but the most common question I have been getting has all been related to his name. Have we picked out a name yet? What is his name? When are we going to be sharing his name? Do we have a list of names that we like? Pretty much just anything related to names. I have received that question so many times. So first and foremost, we are actually not going to be sharing his name until he has been born. So we're not sharing it with family or friends or anyone. It's just going to stay between my husband John and myself. There are a couple reasons why we wanted to keep the name a secret, and I will say John was kind of open either way. He was open to sharing the name or not. But I was the one who really just wanted to keep it a secret, and one of the reasons being I just don't want to hear people's opinions. Like I just, there's something about people sharing their unborn babies' names with others that like makes people feel like they can give their unwanted opinion on the name, or make weird, sometimes mean or negative comments about names, or they'll say like, oh, are you sure you want to name your kid that? Or they'll just flat out say like, oh, I don't like that name. And I just didn't want to potentially deal with any of that. So that's one reason. And then the other reason is just the fact that we've been so open about our journey to get here. We've been open about our struggle with infertility and going through a miscarriage and just everything it's taken to get to this point. And we shared about our pregnancy right away, so I just wanted something to be a secret between just the two of us. And of course eventually he will be born and his name will be announced, but for now it's just kind of fun having this little secret between the two of us. Now, all that being said, currently I am 26 weeks pregnant. Actually, I'm almost 27 weeks, and as the day that I'm filming this, we have not decided on a name yet. We have not picked out a name, whether that be first name or middle name. Nothing has been decided yet. We have really struggled with boy names for some reason. They're just more difficult for us to decide on. And we do have a list of names that we both like, but we haven't made any sort of decision from that list. And yeah, I don't know why it's so difficult for us. We just haven't been able to decide on one. And for many years before we even started trying to conceive, we have had a girl name picked out. And I'm not going to share the name because if we are blessed with a daughter in the future, this will be her name. So I'm going to keep that a secret. But it was just one of those things where John had mentioned that we were watching a movie. I'm not going to say what movie, but we were watching a movie and there's a character with this particular name. And I remember John saying that he really liked that name. And I said that I really liked that name. And we both just kind of in that moment decided if we have a daughter one day, that's going to be her name. And we already have a nickname for her. Like, it's just, ever since that moment, it was just like decided, and it just fit and it clicked. And all these years later, it's still the same. Like, if we have a daughter, that's going to be her name. And we haven't had a moment like that with any of the boys' names that we've looked at. And I feel like we've looked through so many lists, and we have a baby name book that we've gone through, and we've downloaded baby name apps to hopefully give us new ideas of different names. And I feel like I've heard every single boy name out there by now. So Yeah, I don't know why it's so difficult for us in regards to boys' names, but like I said, we do have a list of names that we like, and there's probably 2 names that are at the top, but I don't know. There's just like, for me, I'm just speaking for myself at this point now, but for me, there's just like something holding me back for some reason from all of those names. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like at this point, with how far along I am, I'm almost in the 3rd trimester. If we haven't decided on a name now, I think it's probably not going to be decided until he has been born. So I'm just hoping that, once he has been born and once we see him and meet him for the first time, maybe one of the names we do like and one of those names on our list will just kind of click, and we'll just know his name once he's born. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But if you guys have any suggestions, like I said, I feel like I've heard every single boy name, and I'm not saying we're gonna take any of your suggestions, but just for fun, if you wanna leave any suggestions or your top favorite boy names in the comments down below, please leave your comment. Now that I rambled on about names for way too long, let's move on to the next question. So I have received questions from you guys regarding like a birth plan, or feel like how I'm feeling about having to go into labor and give birth, and just like that kind of things. I haven't written one yet, but I am planning on writing a birth plan. Now, I know before any of you say anything in the comments, I totally understand that a birth plan is not set in stone. Anything could happen, emergencies could arise, and things could change. I really have no idea how my labor and delivery will go. And a birth plan isn't set in stone, and it's more of just like a wish list, and I totally get that. So don't get me wrong here. I know that my birth plan is just more of a wish list, and that it's more of just what I would want my ideal birth to be, but I know that it's probably not going to be anything like I had planned. But for me, I'm just the kind of person, I would still rather have a birth plan or wish list written out, just for my own sake and for the sake of others. Like when I'm in the moment of labor and all the craziness is happening, I at least want to have something written out to where if the doctors have questions or the nurses have questions, some of those may be already answered and written out in my birth plan. And there are certain things I feel like that really are set in stone for the most part. For example, I'm hoping to have an unmedicated vaginal delivery, and one of my wishes on my birth plan is going to be something along the lines of, please do not offer me medication. I will ask for medication if I feel like I need it, but please do not continuously ask me if I want pain medication. Or a lot of the things I feel like that are more set in stone are things that happen after the birth. Like once the baby is born, assuming he is healthy and responsive, and assuming I am healthy, I want him to immediately have skin-to-skin contact with me. I don't want him to be rushed off and given a bath and weighed and poked and prodded and all of that. Like I want him on me immediately. I don't want him going anywhere else, assuming I'm healthy and assuming he is healthy. And there are just other things like that that I feel like for the most part should be able to be accommodated based on my wishes. But yeah, so I don't have like my actual birth plan written out yet. Since I'm about to enter into the 3rd trimester, I will be working on that and writing one out very soon. If you guys are interested in me sharing my birth plan with you guys, let me know, and I can probably sit down and do a video where I just kind of read through what my birth plan is and what my wishes are as far as the labor and delivery and the aftercare goes. Along those same lines, I've been asked how I'm feeling about going through labor and delivery, and if I'm scared or fearful of anything in particular. I can't imagine that there would be anyone who wasn't even a little bit scared. It is scary, and I think most of the scary stuff is just the unknown of what's going to happen. I can read a bajillion things and watch videos and learn as much as I can, but that's not going to determine the kind of birth I have. Ultimately, it's out of my control. So I think that's a scary part of it. For me personally, one of my biggest fears is just the statistics here in the United States. The United States has one of, or maybe the highest, I'm not sure on the exact statistic, but the United States has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in all of the developed world. And that is completely terrifying to me. A lot of that has to do with just unnecessary medical interventions during birth, like unnecessary inductions, unnecessary C-sections, that kind of thing. That really scares me, to be honest with you, which is why I am trying to read and educate myself as much as I can, to where once I go into labor and I'm in the hospital and things are happening, I at least am not going in there being completely clueless. I don't want to ever be in a situation where I just have absolutely no information to go off of and I can't make a very well informed and educated decision on things. So that's why right now I'm taking this time to watch and hear people's different birth stories, and I'm trying to just educate myself on different issues that could come up, and hopefully I'll be a little bit more prepared for things as far as just the decision making goes. Honestly, my biggest fear is just obviously something going wrong. I mean, I want to be there for my baby, and I want my baby to be alive and healthy, and I want that for myself too. So aside from something going wrong on that end, probably my biggest fear is having a C-section. Like, if I'm just being completely honest with you guys, that terrifies me. A C-section is a big deal. It's major abdominal surgery, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. And I've made the observation that sometimes it's made to seem like it's not that big of a deal. I'm not passing judgment on anyone who chooses to have a C-section for their delivery. Like, if it's not an emergency situation, there are plenty of women out there who just electively choose to have a C-section and they don't want to go through labor or anything like that. I'm not passing judgment on anyone, but for me personally, that terrifies me, and I don't want a C-section if I can at all help it. And I totally understand emergencies could happen. So if it's like a life or death situation, then certainly I will do what is necessary to keep myself healthy and keep my baby alive and healthy. But as far as like planning out my birth or labor or anything like that, I'm certainly not planning on having a C-section. And whatever happens will happen, but that is not anything I wish for whatsoever. So like I mentioned, I really am hoping for an unmedicated vaginal delivery. But with that being said, I know that's certainly way more easier said than done. I've been watching different videos from labor nurses and doulas and things like that, and I keep hearing this like common analogy between birth and a marathon. Like, people don't just decide to go run a marathon. They spend a lot of time training and preparing both mentally and physically for their marathon. And wanting to have an unmedicated vaginal delivery is kind of a similar situation. Like, it's not enough to just say that's what you want. You have to put in some time and put in some effort to mentally and physically prepare yourself for that. I think the physical part of it is a little difficult. I mean, I've been trying to keep active. I try to exercise every day and do stretches and walk around a lot, but you can't really practice and prepare physically for labor, so to speak. Like, I can't have a practice labor, if that makes sense. But I think for me, the biggest part is the mental aspect of it. So I've been looking into different things. Like I've looked into hypnobirthing, although I haven't purchased any sort of material for that. I've been looking into different childbirth classes, and I've just been reading a lot of different birth stories, and I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos relating to birth stories and just trying to figure out, you know, what helps people, what helps different women who have unmedicated deliveries, like what helps them cope, what helps them get through it. So I've just been reading a lot about different coping methods when it comes to unmedicated births, and just trying to educate myself. And I found a couple YouTube channels and some Instagram pages that have been really helpful for me. I'll link the channels down below. One of the YouTube channels I've been watching a lot is, her name is Lavonne, and she is a labor and delivery nurse, and she has her own like birth coaching business, and she has a YouTube channel where she has a ton of helpful information on there, and she's super active on Instagram, and so I have binge watched all of her videos, and it's been really helpful. Another YouTube channel I've watched is Bridget Teyler. She is a birth doula. She has a lot of videos on labor and coping methods and just all kinds of really helpful information. So those two channels in particular have been really helpful for me. On Instagram, I also follow Mommy Labor Nurse, and she is a labor and delivery nurse as well, and she has just a ton of information that she provides on Instagram, and she does like weekly Q&As, and she has a podcast. And just for me, I'm the type of person who does really well when I hear other people's experiences and other people's way of like dealing with different situations. So for me, hearing other people's birth stories is just really helpful for me. So I've been really enjoying watching and listening to that kind of content in hopes that it can help prepare me mentally for labor and delivery. So another question that I've been asked several times is, have I read any pregnancy related books, or do I have recommendations for any? And also if I've read any parenting books. Now, I have not read any parenting books whatsoever. I haven't really done much research on them. If you have any suggestions for me of ones that you have read and found helpful, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm open to hearing your thoughts and recommendations on that. But as far as parenting books go, I have not read any, and I don't have any on my radar as of the moment. But for pregnancy, from the very beginning of my pregnancy, I have been reading the What to Expect When You're Expecting book. I know this is like a super common and popular book. I personally find it helpful. I feel like I knew a lot about pregnancy before I got pregnant, but having this book to reference is still really beneficial. I do read it on a weekly basis and just read whichever week I am on. It goes week by week. And it has some information in the beginning of the book, but then it starts going week by week, what you can expect for your pregnancy. And I will say, if you have the What to Expect When You're Expecting app, the weekly updates are pretty much exactly the weekly updates that are from the book. So for some people, you may actually not feel like it's necessary to go out and get this book if you can just download the app for free. But what I really love about this book is each chapter of the book is a different month of pregnancy, and within the chapter it breaks down the weeks. But at the end of each chapter, it has several common and frequently asked questions and answers to those questions. So for me, that's really what I love about the book. If I have a question that comes up, or a concern, or if I'm feeling a certain way and I don't know if it's normal, as I'm sure you are all aware, if you Google things, especially when you're pregnant, you can easily go down a very, very dark path. You can find really negative and scary things when you Google things related to pregnancy. So I really try not to Google anything, but I will reference this book. And a lot of the times when I have had questions or concerns and have looked through the book, it's usually answered in there. And that's what I find really beneficial in regards to this book. And of course, if I have like a major concern or question, I can always call my doctor, and I have done that a few times. But for the most part, I feel like this book is really helpful for those commonly asked questions. And it also has some things in here I think about labor and delivery. I haven't even read through that section yet. I might start reading through that now, just since I'm entering the 3rd trimester. But yeah, so overall, I would honestly recommend this book if you are pregnant. The other book I have, I just started reading it actually, and it is Ina May's Guide to Natural Childbirth. And I have heard so many wonderful things about this book, and I am really excited to dive deeper into it. I just started reading it. It seems like the first half of the book is all about different birth stories and birth experiences, and then the second half of the book is the whole labor and delivery and natural childbirth side of it. So this is geared more towards people who are hoping to have an unmedicated vaginal delivery, although I'm sure there is plenty of information that could be beneficial to you no matter what type of birth you are hoping for. But I am excited, like I said, to delve a little bit deeper into this, and hopefully this helps me in my quest to plan and prepare for an unmedicated birth. Whew, I feel like I talked a lot in this video, so I think that will do it for today's video. If you have any other questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below, and maybe here in another few weeks I'll do another type of video like this. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video very, very soon. Bye!